For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it, but only by sheer accident.
Hey! Thank you. Thank you all very much. Welcome back to 30-odd Minutes. It's great to have you here. How are you tonight? Oddballs. Everybody good?
Yeah. Awesome.
Everybody feeling good? All right. Good, good. Good to have everybody back and doing our thing. Want to remind you, if you're watching the show at 30oddminutes.com, you can jump in our chat room, and Rob and Sarah are just waiting eagerly. There they are. Hey, guys. They're waiting for your questions to pass them up to myself, to our guests. So jump in, participate. This is about you. That's what it's all about tonight. Tonight's show, I'm really excited. It's going to be about psychic vampires, psychic energy, these kinds of things. We're going to be exploring it in depth. I had kind of an odd week this week. A few of us did. A few of us oddballs did. I had an encounter with this guy. Check this out.
Who's a gum? Who's a bum?
Yeah, no, that's not a homeless man. That's actually Eddie Money. The rock singer, Eddie Money. Went to his concert. Eddie Money and I actually appear on the same CD. Check this out. Ooh. Thanks, Matt. Rock for Xmas. It's a charity CD. I wrote a song called My Christmas Tree is Haunted. I wish I was joking. I'm not. It's all there. Cheap Trick, Eddie Money, and me, yours truly. So we had a benefit concert, and Eddie was there. Sarah was there. Sarah, what did you think of the show? Microphone?
I can't really look at the 80s the same, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, it was definitely life-changing. So thank you very much, guys. And, oh, sorry. Great event, great event. You know, we do a lot of odd things on this show, and sometimes we do pieces and we think it's going to be great, and we don't quite know where it fits, and that's kind of what this piece is all about. Let's hope for the best.
Hey, with cool flying helmets like these, who needs a body?
Did somebody scratch my nose?
I feel like a reject from Space Invaders.
Yeah, it's all odd. Thank you to Rosemary Ellen Guiley for playing along with us that time. We have fun here, don't we? All right, got an email this week. Check this out. Dear 30-odd Minutes, I think your show sucks. Ouch, ouch. It's like Wayne's World of the paranormal. Seriously, who are you trying to kid with your cheesy graphics and camera work? You're just a bunch of wannabes trying to cash in on the paranormal. I only watch to see what you'll mess up next. Dave. Dave, cut us, do we not bleed? Buy us beard, do you not get our full attention? Sorry to let some of you down. So we do. They are. Holy cow. What's our budget down to now?
150.
150. Seriously, some people spend more in a week on groceries than we have for our budget for the whole year. So we're not in it for the money. But thank you, Dave, for the critique. We appreciate all that kind of feedback. All right. Psychic vampires. I'm a big believer. I can tell you with certainty this stuff is for real. I never knew it had a label until a few years ago as I got more interested in the paranormal. You know those people in your life, sometimes they're in your family, sadly, where you start talking to them, and I should say you're hardly talking at all. They're talking. It's and the longer they talk, your shoulders start to slump, and your head starts to go down, and you just feel completely drained. It can even happen over the phone. They hang up, and you just go, oh my gosh, what just happened? I was just talking. Other people you talk to, you feel energized. You feel alive and excited. Psychic vampires, these people that just drain your life away. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We've got just the perfect person to do it. Really excited about this because we're going to not just address this issue, but a lot of others. Michelle Belanger is our guest tonight. She's an energy worker. She's the founder of the House of Kheperu, a magical order, which we'll be discussing. She's the author of many books, including The Ghost Hunter Survival Guide, Psychic Dreamwalking, and the bestseller Psychic Vampire Codex. She's a singer, songwriter, artist, and all-around paranormal fan. You've seen her on the History Channel, HBO, and A&E's Paranormal State. Joining us from her home in Cleveland, Ohio, please put your hands together for Michelle Belanger.
Yeah! Hey, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, listen, hey, real quick, I just want to get a picture. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind, for the family album here. Thank you. Oh, good, good. All right, that's for the family album. So, Michelle, remember when we were growing up as kids and would steal apples from Old Man Johnson's farm?
Did I get abducted by aliens? I don't recall this at all.
Okay, wait a minute. So we're not brother and sister?
I'm pretty sure we're not. You do look a little bit like my brother, but I'm pretty sure I don't know you.
All right,
not that way.
All right, hold on now. Is this not your father?
No.
That's my dad. He's here tonight.
Sounds like a neat guy.
That's my dad. So he's here tonight. Okay, all right. So we've established that we're not brother and sister, which is good. We're making headway. I do have to ask something else. Are we married?
Well, I don't remember a honeymoon in Vegas.
You know, this is good because my wife is also here tonight, and she would probably be pretty upset if we were also married. So, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Megan. All right, so we've established we're not married, we're not brother and sister. Probably related somewhere in the past.
Probably. There's an awful lot of Belangers, Belangers, all through New England, Canada, and then a whole bunch that made their way down to Lafayette, New Orleans, and all points in Louisiana.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's funny because you and I spoke on the phone, gosh, a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, it was a few years ago.
And we've kept in touch on email and things like that. And we both get the same emails from people, you know, hey, is that your wife? Is that your sister? Or husband, vice versa. Yep. And it's kind of funny that this is our first face-to-face and it's remote.
Yep. Yeah, I think we've managed to crisscross at a couple of conventions. Like, there was something I was supposed to be at that I know I was looking forward to, that you were going to be at, and then something happened. I couldn't make it. But, you know, these things happen.
And you're here tonight, so we do appreciate it. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. That was kind of fun. So let's talk about psychic vampires. What's your definition? Because you'd know better than us.
My definition of a psychic vampire is somebody who needs to regularly and actively take human vital energy in order to maintain their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. It's important that it's human vital energy because everybody takes energy. I mean, we engage in an exchange all the time. Most of us just aren't aware of it. I mean, energy is what psychics are perceptive of. It's what they pick up when they walk into a house and they feel this kind of heaviness on the air. Psychic vampires are usually people who are psychic, they have psychic awareness, and they usually often also have a chronic health condition that probably as a child they figured out how to take this energy in order to make themselves feel better.
Right, so you are a psychic vampire, correct?
I am indeed.
All right, now, do people shy away from you saying, you know, that's not the kind of friend I want in my life, or what do you run into?
Well, when I was much younger and I didn't really know how to manage my energy, I suspect I was probably one of those universal pains in the neck. But it's not necessarily a bad thing if you know that you are doing it and you can learn to turn it on and off.
Right, right. So, do you feed from willing victims?
Yeah,
I mean, is
only.
victim the right word even?
Victim, we actually use, in the community, we use the term donor.
Okay, fair enough.
To take the victimization out of it. And generally, none of us, I mean, nobody that I know, will take from people against their will unless they are in a truly, truly extreme circumstance of need. And even then, usually they'll do something called ambient feeding, which is, say you go to a sports event or a concert where there's a lot of people, and everybody can kind of start to feel that energy that starts to free float around as people get more hyped up on whatever it is they're watching, and just take from that rather than from any individual person.
Right, and that's not the drugs and the alcohol in the concert.
Yeah, no, not the drugs or the alcohol.
Right, okay, fair enough. And so, so this is a free exchange. You have donors and you have people that need it. What happens if you don't get it?
For me, after a couple of weeks, I start to get tired. On the extreme end of things, I start to have rhythm problems with my heart, tachycardia, arrhythmia. My immune system starts to tank out. Pretty much just everything starts to slow down. I get sick a lot, I get tired, and I don't think that I'm going to die if I don't take energy, but I have, in fact, landed in the hospital because of it.
My goodness. And how long has this been for you? Your whole life, since childhood?
My whole life. My whole life. It took me a while to really figure out what the heck to call it, and to honestly to accept it. Right. Like, I grew up in a family where psychic abilities were normal, so we could talk about that sort of stuff, but the idea that you take energy from other people is a little weird, really. I mean, it's not something that everybody, it's not in everybody's worldview. So around about, I don't know, my early teens and high school and stuff, I started to really study fairly aggressively a lot of the psychic paranormal phenomenon from the 1800s onward to see if there was anything that described people like me.
Right.
I actually found the word psychic vampire in the writings of Dion Fortune and in the writings of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Sure.
And those were a bunch of magicians in London in the 1880s and 1890s. And they, of course, defined psychic vampires in terms of the people that you needed to protect yourself against. Those kind of strong personalities or weak personalities who will prey upon the energy of others, usually by inciting emotional responses.
Right, right. And so it's been around a while. We know about this. Can it happen over the phone? I mean, you know those people we have phone conversations with and it's over and you just go, oh, I mean, or is that something different?
I think if you have an established connection with a person, you can use a phone conversation or something as a focus to connect to that person.
Right.
For me, I prefer to do things in person. It's not impossible to do it over long distance, much like Reiki healing or any of the energy techniques that people learn how to focus long distance. I do feel that it takes a little bit more concentration on most people's part to do something without the person right there. A lot of it comes down to mental discipline.
And so is it fair to say that most psychic vampires may not even realize they are such a creature?
I think the vast majority have no idea that they're psychic vampires, that they are taking this energy, or that the energy even exists. They simply are functioning off of instinct, and they will return to situations that make them feel better again and again, even if those are negative situations, even if those are situations that involve negative attention, which oftentimes when the person doesn't know what they are or what they're doing, it tends to be negative attention that they're seeking. They're either that really domineering person in the workplace who gets up into your space and pushes every one of your buttons to get a strong reaction, or that, oh, poor me, Aunt Edna who sits down and tells you about her corns, her bunions, and her bowel movements ad nauseum, to the point where you want to just, be nauseum, and sucks the life out of you in the process.
Yeah, no, understood. Michelle, we do have a question for you in our chat room.
Okay.
Sarah?
We do, Michelle. We have a woman named Mary who says that she used to know this woman that every time she would hug her, she felt like all of her positive energy, all of her happy thoughts would just completely drain away. Would that be an example of a psychic vampire?
Yep, somebody who is using touch as the primary focus. It's really easy to take energy through physical touch. The closer you are to a person, the easier it is to focus and take that energy, even if you're doing it unconsciously and just on instinct. One of the easiest protection techniques is if you think you're dealing with somebody who is a psychic vampire, who is taking from you without your permission, whether they're aware of it or not, make sure that they're not in physical contact with you, and then have them at least at an arm's length. Like, get a little bit of distance between you and the person. It will make it harder for them to focus, especially if they're unconsciously feeding, because in that case, they don't really know a whole lot of techniques to take against your will outside of touch or strong emotional reaction.
So how can someone discover that, how can someone own this, that I am indeed a psychic vampire and I have this need? How do you make that self-discovery?
Well, for me, I really put it to the test in college. It's the story that ends with me in the hospital, actually. I was on the fast track for a PhD and was pretty sure that I was never going to get tenured as a professor if I persisted in this rather strange notion that I was a vampire.
Right.
So I decided to actively not take from anybody around me, just shut down those processes entirely. And I abstained from taking energy from donors or other people for about a period of 8 months. And over that time period, I went from just a little tired to having a really hard time getting out of bed to being out of breath just going up, a flight of stairs. And ultimately, I passed out in my Milton class, went to the hospital, had them run tests, had them actually go to the point of suggesting that I go on a list for a heart transplant because they could tell that there were really tremendously screwed up things with my heart's rhythm, but they couldn't figure out exactly what was going on with it. Beyond, it was all over the place. I checked myself out of the hospital, and that night I engaged in a conscious, active energy exchange, and the next day I was fine. Like, this stuff that had just had me completely worn out and exhausted for 8 months was just gone. I went to the gym and swam a few laps, and at that point I was a believer that there was really something going on.
Right, right. I mean, what an amazing conclusion to come to. So where do you go to find willing donors now?
Well, for me, it's a lot easier than I suppose it used to be because my face is on every television show connected to vampires ever,
Right.
as far as I can see. So people know what I am, and I'll be honest, I live in a small town outside of Ohio, and I go down to like the local Panera or the local Chipotle, and a couple of the guys at the Chipotle, they're like, "Are you here snacking on the crowd?" I mean, like they know. So there's a benefit in being so visible because if people aren't totally weirded out by it, they're curious and are willing to engage in a dialogue. Within the community, and the community is really extensive. You've got thousands of people in the United States alone, and more than that worldwide. There are, in bigger cities, clubs that people will go to, but I think for the most part, a lot of people will connect online on internet forums and sites. Now that comes with the caveat of don't just hook up with someone that you've met in a chat room, because there are internet predators who have started trolling some of the boards who are definitely not interested in your energy.
Right.
And they, you know, when dealing with the internet, all caveats with the internet do apply.
Yes, of course, of course. But I mean, that's, you know, if you're looking for internet chat rooms for really anything other than chat, I think
Yeah.
you're asking for
Yeah,
some
you need to be
trouble.
careful. We have a lot of word of mouth too, just within the community where we have a fairly extensive network. There's a really good site, the Voices of the Vampire Community, otherwise known as the VVC, and a lot of us, both psychic vampires and blood drinkers and everybody else involved in the community, kind of network there, as well as donors. There's a gal named Pixie who lives out in Pittsburgh, and she helps to organize a lot of the donors there. So we talk with one another. We say, hey, this person over here, they're pretty cool. And I'll be honest, a lot of other psychic vampires that I know, their main partners tend to be also their sexual partners.
Okay.
The people that they are intimately involved with. Because it's, even if it isn't necessarily a physical exchange, you are still connecting to somebody on a very intimate level. It's a level that you feel some of their emotions. You get a piece of them. And for some people, that's a little bit more than they'd want to do with just some casual person that they met off the street.
Sure, yeah, no, understood. Michelle, hang with us here for a second. We do need to take a very odd break. Check this out.
And now, an odd fact with Matthew Moniz.
Every time you lick a stamp, you consume 1/10 of a calorie. Isn't that odd?
This has been an odd fact with Matthew Moniz.
Oh, I somehow feel smarter for that. Thank you, Matt. 1/10 of a calorie for licking a stamp. What about the new, you know, sticker kind?
I'll lick them anyway.
You do? Okay. Good
I
enough.
recommend toads.
Right, toads, stamps, whatever gets you going. Good stuff. All right. Back to psychic vampires. Okay, so it sounds like it's quite a community out there. Tell us about the House of Kheperu. Is that a community for psychic vampires?
It's actually my personal group.
Okay.
And let me see, we started around about 1996. We were not formally connected with the rest of the community until about 98 or 99. We are primarily psychic vampires, but actually we have people who are part of the house who are not necessarily vampiric. In a lot of ways, what we are is an order that explores psychic abilities, personal development. We feel that we have connections to one another above and beyond our awarenesses of energy and our psychic abilities. Many of us have shared past lives. That's sort of like on the high end of weird for a lot of people, so I don't belabor the point, but it really is kind of the core connection for a lot of us. And what we do is we have our own particular style of energy work. We teach it at kind of all over the place now. There's a big pagan convention called Convocation, and that is in February in Michigan, Troy, Michigan. And we teach there as well as private classes. Goodness, we've had as many as like 30, 40 members, I think, back in the day. At that point, that was way more people than I was willing to deal with.
Right.
Because just about everybody in the house, we're very much a teaching group. And in a lot of ways, everybody in the house have been students of mine in one capacity or another. And it's actually really satisfying to see all of these people who have developed their own skills and their own knowledge and discipline to a point where they are also teachers.
Right, right. And what are the bake sales like for, I mean, that's got to be awesome.
Yeah, we've actually done a couple of fundraisers way back in the day when we do an event called the Open House, and originally it was intended as kind of like this neutral ground for different houses and groups in the vampire community to get together and share their ideas and their teachings. In recent years, it's become a lot more eclectic than that. Pagans, Wiccans, occultists, paranormal investigators, Josh Light and Elfie Music were at the last one. And we do that around about May or June of every year. And, it's about 100 people. We get together, we do workshops the whole weekend, and we try to make sure that many different perspectives and teaching styles, especially about energy work and psychic development, are all represented.
Right, right. Very good. Well, Michelle, we do have another question in the chat room. Rob, what's going on?
Yeah, I have a couple questions from Greg. He wants to know if you can harm somebody while draining their energy, and also if there are certain body parts which emit more energy, such as the heart, head, or hands.
That's a good question. Yeah, can you harm someone in an energy drain?
You can, but the harm is not generally lasting. There's two circumstances under which you can do a little bit of damage to somebody. If you are taking from someone without their permission, it can be unpleasant to the point of any kind of psychic attack. Headache, nausea, dizzy, they'll feel immediately tired. It is certainly more unpleasant if it is done against their will. If somebody knows what they're doing when they're taking and the exchange is willing, it's actually very pleasurable. Now, the more extensive harm I have found is if you consistently feed off of the same person for an extended period of time, you can take enough energy that their own body starts being unable to meet that need, and it starts to wear them down in the same way the psychic vampire is worn down by their constant energy deficit. So they start to get sick and tired all the time. So it's usually advisable to have several donors that you rotate through so that you're never taking so much from anybody to actually wear out their system.
Right.
Places, it's less places that generate more energy and more places that are better focal points for connecting to it. In Reiki or any other energy discipline, your hands are a major part of your body that you can use to connect to other people and to use as a focus to channel as well as to take energy. The mouth is another very useful tool for connecting to energy and taking it in. I prefer to connect on parts of the body that are, if you're familiar with the chakra system, and this is kind of imported from the Hindu tradition, yoga and stuff like that, there's these energy centers that line up along the spine, and it tends to be easier for me, at least, as an energy worker, to connect to those points.
Right. Of course, like the head, the chest, the groin area, all these things, the heart.
Yeah, over the
sure.
heart. I try to avoid the neck just because there's so many different ways things could go wrong with that.
And it's so cliche, too, for a vampire,
yeah, it
right?
is.
I mean, come on. The kids today with their Twilight and everything, vampires got so sexy. What happened?
Yeah, okay, vampires, first of all, don't sparkle.
Right.
The whole Cullen craze is a little baffling to me. I actually get emails on a fairly regular basis and some handwritten, on notebook paper. Obviously, this was written in science class. Questions of I want my boyfriend to bite me. How do I get him to, or can you hook me up with Edward Cullen? And just,
yeah, sets everyone back a few years, but it'll fade. I mean, it can't last.
It'll fade. I mean, at least it's opened up a dialogue. I've had more people asking me about what vampires really are as a result of Twilight.
Sure.
And to be fair, I dressed up as Edward Cullen, glitter and all, for Halloween, just for kicks.
Right. Good stuff. All right, we do have another question for you, Sarah.
We do, Michelle. This one is from Ren. He wants to know, is it possible for recent memories to actually transfer during a feeding? So
I have
a
had
recent
that
memory from your
yes.
victim. Yeah.
And also repressed memories. There was somebody that I fed off of who had a very traumatic childhood experience. That person did not recall that experience consciously for at least 3 years after I had first picked up on it. I was discreet. I didn't think that she needed to hear what I was pretty sure had happened to her when she was a child. In therapy, it had come out, and I was really kind of not surprised. Yeah, psychic material does exchange with the exchange. Emotions are probably the most common, but thoughts and memories sometimes as well, depending on how strong the connection is to the person.
Right. And so how can we apply this to paranormal investigation, which I know you've been doing with Paranormal State and things like that?
All of the things that I do for Paranormal State, I can do because I'm a psychic vampire. I naturally tune into the energy of people, and by extension, that means that I can pick up on the energy of spirits. But when I do a walkthrough, what I'm picking up first is the energetic residue, especially the emotional residue of the people who live in the house. And I kind of act as a psychic bloodhound. I follow those impressions to find the places where I pick up the strongest sense of powerful emotions, usually fear, to see kind of where the biggest experiences of the haunting have been in that house. And I use that as a bridge then to pick up anything else. My awareness of energy is inextricably tied to my identity as a psychic vampire. Now, one of the other things that psychic vampires are really good at doing is sucking energy, is taking energy from places. So if you are in a house where it's a residual haunting, and you know the yucky, horrible stuff that is hanging around is just emotional residue from, say, a traumatic experience, a psychic vampire is uniquely equipped to connect to that energy and to clear it out. So I do a lot of house cleanings. I've been doing that for over a decade now.
And so how does the cleaning work? Are you...
Well, really, quite simply, I apply the same techniques to the house and to the space that I would to a person that I was taking energy from. I connect to the energy that is lingering in the house, and what you'll visibly see is me kind of wiping it down with my hands, but that's just a focus. The real action is simply concentrating on the energy, taking it into myself, and either transforming it into something that I can use, or just shunting it away and grounding it out.
Right, and so how are we aware of our own energy bodies? How can we give this energy?
Well, I think the first thing for people to concentrate on, learning to meditate certainly helps. A lot of the Eastern techniques, Tai Chi, yoga, things that we've started to import into the West and are no longer too intimidated by how weird they might be, these are things that are good starts. I also suggest just pay attention to how you move through your day. Pay attention to when you walk into a place, what you first pick up, and why you have those impressions, or when you talk to a person, why you have those impressions. You'll find that you are interacting with energy, taking it in and putting it out all the time. You just don't consciously realize it.
Right, and so that's, I think that's one of the topics we've been discussing a lot lately on this show, is that there seem to be other energies out there that some people can pick up on, that we can train ourselves to get closer to start to, like you said, just paying attention, I think, is such a bold step forward.
Yeah.
And if you
learn to listen.
Right, if you can sense it's there, can we manipulate it? Can we do something with that?
Yes, I firmly believe that we can. It's just a matter of becoming conscious that we already are.
Right, very good. Well, Michelle, we really appreciate you being with us tonight. For more information on Michelle Belanger, be sure to check out our website, 30oddminutes.com. We'll have links to everything she's doing, as well as this episode and past episodes, so you can check those out online. We invite you, email us, tell us what other subjects you want to hear about, what guests you want to see, info@30oddminutes.com. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Oddballs, for being here. Yeah? All right. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. It was great having you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.